So I remember calling my friends. I took a loaded gun. I took a gun, I put it in my waist. I called my friends. We went up there about 20 of us. And I walked into the masjid. And it caught me off guard.
Ini adalah kisah menarik dari seorang rapper terkenal Amerika yang mengalami efek roller coaster dalam hidupnya. Bahkan ketika down, dia merasa hidupnya tak berguna lagi dan sempat memutuskan untuk sengaja bunuh diri dengan alkohol dan narkoba. Hingga pada suatu hari, Islam datang dan merubah hidupnya secara keseluruhan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I just want to give salams and welcome the new Muslims out in Dubai. My name is Mutah Beale, formerly known as Napoleon. Most people might know me as a rap artist or a former rap artist that was involved with a rap group called the Outlaws. Alhamdulillah, about 18 years ago, myself also converted to the religion of Islam similar to you.
Mutah Beale atau Napoleon dilahirkan dari keluarga beragama Muslim. Namun sebuah insiden terjadi hingga di usianya yang baru 3 tahun, dia berpindah menjadi Kristen.
My story, was kind of my life, for example, was it was ups and downs. I grew up in New Jersey. My parents converted to the religion of Islam before I was born. At the age of 3, my mother, my father got murdered in front of me. So from that day on, myself, my brothers, we moved into the home of my grandparents who happened to be Christian. I recall at a young age, my grandmother, the first time she made me get on my knees and pray to Jesus. I remember at a young age that I am now following a different religion that my mother and father used to talk to me about. And I remember my parents used to always tell me that I was a Muslim. You're a Muslim, you're a Muslim. So when I moved to my grandparents' house, things changed. I lost my contact with, of course, anything that can teach me about the religion of Islam, which was my parents at that time. So I grew up, as you can say, as a Christian. My grandmother used to take me to church on Sundays. But then I got to a point in my life that I said, you know what? I have no religion, I only believe in God.
Selama menjadi seorang Kristen, Mutah Beale tidak merasakan adanya ketenangan dalam batinnya. Semakin hari, hidupnya malah semakin terpuruk. Dia tidak tahu apa tujuan Tuhan menciptakan dia. Mutah Beale hanyut dalam kemaksiatan yang luar biasa.
So I made my own rules. I used to believe that I can do whatever I want. I can eat whatever I want. I can drink whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. I can live my life the way wherever I want without any consequences. Myself, I used to say that. I used to make excuses. I used to make excuses on why I drink alcohol. I used to make excuses on why, I do things that's not permissible now in the religion of Islam. I used to say, well, God, He know I come from the ghetto. This used to be my mindset. He know I come from the ghetto. He see my circumstances that I'm surrounded by, so I'm sure He will forgive me. This used to be my mindset because I was ignorant on the purpose of why I was created.
Hingga pada suatu hari, Beale menemukan satu hobi yang sangat dia sukai. Dia mulai menulis lirik lagu rap dan mulai nge-rap kepada orang-orang yang ada di sekelilingnya. Meskipun tak banyak, tapi dari sana Beale mulai mendapatkan uang. Dan kemudian dia berpikir, bagaimana caranya agar hobinya ini bisa menghasilkan uang yang lebih banyak, sekaligus membuat dirinya menjadi terkenal.
But at a very young age, I wanted to do something different. I realized that me going down the path of a drug dealer, it wasn't really good for me. So I wanted to do something different. So what I started to do is write raps, or what you can call poetry. I would go in my room, I would write a rap, and I would come back outside in my neighborhood. And I would say this rap for the locals in my neighborhood, the local drug dealers, the local gangsters. I would say a rap for them. And I remember they used to pay me. They used to say, I'll give you $1 if you say a rap. I'll give you 50 cents if you say a rap. So I realized that maybe rap music can be a career for me.
Karena kecintaannya pada musik rap, akhirnya Beale bertemu dengan rapper terkenal saat itu, yaitu Tupac Shakur. Beale pun mulai serius berkecimpung di industri musik rap. Bersama Tupac, Beale berhasil meraih kesuksesan.
So eventually I got reintroduced to a childhood friend of mine by the name of Gaddafi Yafeo, who happened to be the half brother of an up-and-coming rap star at that particular time by the name of Tupac Shakur. And his mother told me that Tupac Shakur is on her way back to New York City. If you're serious about getting involved in the music industry, here's your chance. At that particular time, I lived in New Jersey. The part of New Jersey that I lived in was approximately 30 minutes ride over to New York City. So when Tupac came back to New York City, I was able to catch the train, myself and my brother, and we went to Manhattan, and I was able to introduce myself to him. And from that day on, it's been like family with myself, Gaddafi, Tupac, and the rest of the homies. So eventually Tupac put a rap group together. He wanted to call us the Young Thugs. And then we went to Dramacidal, and eventually we went to called The Outlaws. I appeared on the first record that I appeared on was a record called Me Against the World with Tupac that sold to this day 5 million records. The next album was an album called All Eyes on Me. That record sold 20 million records. I appeared on over 40 million record sales worldwide.
Apa yang ada di pikiran Beale saat itu, dia dapat meraih kekayaan dalam waktu yang singkat. Karena selama ini dia melihat di TV, para rapper Amerika sering memamerkan perhiasannya. Namun, apa yang terlihat tidak seperti apa yang dipikirkan orang-orang.
And I remember when I got involved in the music industry, I thought to myself that this lifestyle will bring me a happiness that I used to see other rap artists on television. When I used to turn on my television and I used to see rappers with their jewelry on, their cars, their chain, their houses, I used to say to myself, I want that lifestyle because they seem happy. But when I got involved in the music industry, I realized that it was a facade. It was a mirage, as they say in the Arab world. It wasn't the truth. It wasn't what it seemed to be. It wasn't what it seemed to be. Majority of those in them houses and those cars, it didn't even belong to them. The record company was allowed to use these houses and the cars just for their records, just for their videos, and then they would take it back. Eventually, I moved from New Jersey to Los Angeles because the rapper Tupac Shakur, he signed a record deal with Death Row Records. He became the #1 rap artist at that particular time, up even till this day. He became the #1 rap artist. He sold the most records. When he got to Death Row Records, he sold millions and millions of more records. And I remember telling myself this lifestyle seemed like it would never come to an end.
Ketika Beale sedang ada di puncak kesuksesan, satu persatu Allah SWT ambil apa yang dia sebut sebagai kebahagiaan. Bukan hartanya, tapi teman-temannya yang selalu mendukung karirnya. Dalam waktu yang begitu singkat, satu persatu teman-teman Beale pergi untuk selamanya. Kondisi ini tentu membuat Beale hancur. Dan mungkin inilah cara Allah SWT mengingatkan ciptaannya bahwa tidak ada yang namanya kebahagiaan yang abadi di dunia ini.
Until one day, September 13, 1996, Tupac he took a trip to Las Vegas. And this was a trip that changed not only my life forever, but it also changed the music industry and many lives. It was a domino effect of many people that was involved with Tupac in the music industry at that particular time. Tupac got into a fight with a person who happened to be a gang member. A couple hours later, that gang member and his friends and his entourage, they came and they did a drive-by shooting. They shot the car up 13 times that Tupac was riding in. 6 days later, Tupac died in the hospital. I was 17 years old, no more than 18 years old. He was like a brother figure to me. I lived in the same house with him. I traveled the world with him. I wake up, my bedroom is here, his bedroom is there. Imagine waking up the next day or a couple days later, the person who was a role model to you, the person who was a big brother to you was no longer existing on this earth. And I realized that in the blink of an eye, your life can change. We didn't expect this. We didn't expect that the day we go to Vegas, or the day, Tupac go to Vegas, that he would never come back to us in Los Angeles. And it was a domino effect. Because after the death of Tupac, Suge Knight, the CEO of Death Row Records, who also got shot in the car, he went to prison for 5 years. We pretty much, myself along with the Outlaws, we had to fend on ourselves. We had to survive on our own. Tupac died in September. 2 months later, November, the person who introduced me to Tupac, Gaddafi, who was also my childhood friend, who was considered the half brother of Tupac Shakur, he was murdered he got killed a couple months later by my own cousin, the one that I introduced him to, because my cousin was playing with a gun and the gun accidentally went off and it shot Gaddafi in the face and he died. So in September 1996, we lost Tupac. November 1996, we lost Gaddafi, my childhood friend and the one who introduced me to Tupac. And the person that shot and killed Gaddafi was my own little cousin, who pretty much I was raised with as my own brother, and a few months later, he went to prison. My life was turned upside down in a matter of seconds, in the blinking of an eye, and I realized I had to survive for myself. So I continued to do music, but it was never the same after losing Tupac and losing Gaddafi. I continued to do music, myself and my group members, the Outlaws. We released an album called Still I Rise. That record sold over 2-3 million records. And now I started to see a little bit of money for myself.
Hidup harus terus berjalan. Mungkin itulah kata-kata yang selalu terngiang di benak Beale. Cepat atau lambat, dia harus segera bangkit dari keterpurukan. Beale pun memulai segalanya sendiri, termasuk karirnya di dunia musik rap. Berkat usaha dan semangat yang gigih, dia pun berhasil mengambil kembali hati para penggemarnya. Beale kini berhasil menghasilkan uang yang banyak tanpa Tupac dan Gaddafi di sampingnya. Beale menjadi kaya raya dan mampu membeli apapun yang dia inginkan kecuali kebahagiaan.
And I remember receiving my first check from the music industry. Without Tupac, without living with Tupac, I remember I received my first check for about $150,000. And I remember another 6 months later, I got another check for about $80,000. So I said to myself, finally, I can also live the so-called American dream. The first thing I did with my money, of course, I purchased some jewelry, and then I purchased my own home. I purchased my first home. It was a townhouse. I lived in it for 1 year. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith that the son of Adam would never be satisfied until the dirt of the grave filled his mouth. I remember being in this house for 1 year and I wanted something bigger. 1 year later, I went to another house in the gated community, all $1 million homes, and I purchased a house there. A year later, I felt uncomfortable. I said, I need a bigger home, and I purchased another bigger house. And I realized that the more that I kept moving into these homes, I realized that something was missing. It wasn't the house that I was living in. It wasn't the size of the home. It wasn't the amount of bedrooms in the house. I realized that it was something inside of me that was missing, but I couldn't put my hands on it. So I was searching and I started to question myself. I started to, I would go to sleep at night. Imagine 21, 22 years old, falling asleep in $1 million homes. And I would say to myself, I have this house. I have money in my bank account. I have a brand new car I have brand new cars, I have jewelry. But the only thing I don't have is happiness.
Beale semakin terperosok ke jurang kemaksiatan. Hari-harinya selalu diwarnai dengan minuman keras. Hingga pada suatu hari, dalam kondisi mabuk, dia hampir membunuh adiknya sendiri. Namun inilah momen yang menjadi titik balik kehidupan Beale untuk menjadi lebih baik.
So I got to the point I said, you know what? There's no need for me to live anymore. What I'm going to do now with my life, I'm going to intoxicate my body. I'm going to intoxicate my brain. Every single day for the rest of my life, I made a pledge that I'm going to be drunk and high until I die. This was my pledge because I didn't want to live anymore. I was so unhappy that I said that I'm going to drink, I'm going to intoxicate myself because there's no purpose of life. And one day, in my mind, in my state of intoxication, I was in a recording studio and I got into a fight with my own little brother. And when I fought my brother, unfortunately, I could have killed my own little brother. He had to go to the hospital because he had to get staples to put back the hole in his head. He had to get staples to close the hole in his head. And that day, by the permission of Allah, there happened to be an American Muslim named Mutah Napoleon Beale, who was also a musician. When he seen the fight between myself and my little brother, he broke the fight up. And he asked me what was my name. And I told him my name is Mutah. He said, it sounded like an Arabic name. How did you get that name? I said, well, because my mother and father were Muslim. He said, so are you a Muslim? And I was drunk and I said, yeah, I'm a Muslim. And he started asking me about Islam. I said, well, to be honest, I don't know nothing about Islam. And you know what was crazy? There was a artist, most people might know him. He was from England. His name was Seal. He was an artist that did, I would say, pop music. So one day, Macau, he come to me, and I went to Macau and I told him I want to do a song with his artist Seal. And Seal at that particular time, he don't do music with no one. But this guy Macau, he made it happen. So myself, the Outlaws, we did a record with Seal. And when it was time to pay, the guy Macau, the brother Macau, he called me and he said, I have to send you the bill to pay. I said, how much is going to cost? He said, I don't want you to pay me money. He said, I want you to visit the mosque. I said, wait a minute, that sounds strange. You don't want me to pay you money? You want me to go to the masjid? He said, yeah, that's all I want from you. So I said, okay, no problem.
Pandangan negatif Beale tentang Muslim semuanya berubah ketika Beale melihat orang-orang Muslim di dalam masjid. Hati Beale yang sudah lama kering mulai bergetar. Dia merasa masjid dan Islam adalah rumah yang lama tak ia kunjungi.
After he kept calling me, I eventually accepted his invitation. Remind you, the people that murdered my mother and father when I was 3 years old, they claimed to be Muslim. So my entire life I grew up with a negative mindset and thinking about Muslims. From my ignorance, I didn't want to be around a Muslim. I didn't really trust Muslims. So now this guy is asking me to come to the mosque. But I have no other choice because I have to pay him. So I remember calling my friends. I took a loaded gun. I took a gun, I put it in my waist. I called my friends. We went up there, about 20 of us. And I walked into the masjid. And it caught me off guard. Because I seen things inside the masjid that I didn't see in the entertainment industry. I didn't see in my community. I seen brotherhood that I didn't know, that I didn't believe can exist. When I walk into the masjid, it was a predominantly Black American masjid, African American masjid, but I noticed I seen white Americans. I seen Arab Americans, Pakistanis Americans, and everybody was hugging each other. Everybody was joking and laughing with each other. So this was a brotherhood that I seen that crossed skin color, race. It didn't matter. They all was one body. And that was different growing up in church. And growing up in America in church, if you go to this church, it's either all Black church, or it's a white church, or Korean church, Asian church. You never really see multiculturals within a church in America. So this was the first time I entered a place of worship, and I seen people from all different color, all shades, all race, different languages, but they all treated each other like brothers. And prayer time came, and this brother told me to pray. I told him I don't know how to pray. I told him I never prayed in my life. And I remember his words. He said, pray with us. Whatever you see us do, you do. But when you put your face in the floor, remember that you're only worshiping your creator. So whatever you want, you ask your creator. And I remember when I put my face down to the floor, this particular time in my life, I didn't want money. I didn't want anything from dunya. Only thing I wanted was happiness and tranquility. I would have gave my money up to be happy. So when prayer time came, I remember putting my face down to the floor, and I remember praying to God. I said, oh God, can you please guide me to a way of life that will bring my happiness? Guide me to a way of life that will bring my happiness. So when the prayer was over, I asked the brother, I said, give me literature of the Quran. The literature of Islam. He gave me the English translation of the Quran. I rushed to my house just so that I can read it. When I started reading this literature, I started reading about names that my grandmother used to teach me growing up as a Christian. Names such as David, Solomon, Abraham, Moses, Isaac, Ishmael. These are names that I knew my grandmother used to teach me that they are prophets. But now I'm reading about these names and I realized that these are prophets of God and messengers of God. And then I was able to read the last messenger of God, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who came from Arabia over 1400 years ago. And he came with the same exact message of Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and David. And that message was to worship your creator. The purpose of our life is to worship our creator. And when we say worship our creator, it doesn't mean we worship and pray nonstop. No, a Muslim, Islam is a way of life. This is why Muslims, we worship our creator from the day we are born until the day we die, not just praying. Our speech is worship, because it's going to be for us or against us on the day of judgment. Our business dealings is for us, is worship. The way we deal in business, either we're honest, we're unhonest, These things is going to be against us on Yom Qiyamah, or on the day of judgment, or for us. The way we deal with our friends, the way we deal with our family, the life of a Muslim, everything is worship. The way we eat, we say Bismillah. This is a worship. So when Allah said He has not created mankind and jinn except to worship Him, this is the life of a Muslim. So after reading this, I called the brother. I said, Alhamdulillah, I'm ready to become a Muslim. I accepted the religion of Islam in 2002, and I've been a Muslim from 2002, alhamdulillah, up until this day, and I ask Allah to make me live and die as a Muslim.
Wallahu a'lam bishawab. Semoga kisah ini bermanfaat. Lebih dan kurangnya mohon dimaafkan. Yang benar datangnya dari Allah SWT. Khilaf atau keliru itu datangnya dari saya pribadi sebagai manusia biasa. Sampai ketemu di kisah-kisah seru yang penuh makna selanjutnya. Saya akhiri. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.